Greetings, ghouls and ghoulettes. It's your old fiend Corey from the Twin Ports Horror Society. This evening, we are joined by Jim Ojala. He is a Duluth native who currently has his own makeup and special effects production company in sunny Los Angeles, California. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey from just being a person in Duluth to now a person in Los Angeles working on movies?
It all started with public access television. After high school, me and my friends started messing around with just public access, figuring out how to use the cameras. At that time, there were big SVHS cameras, long before YouTube, and just fell in love with the fact that you could invade people's homes with this thing called public access. And we started creating this horror comedy TV series called My Three Scums, which got us some attention in Duluth. A lot of people really dug what we were doing, and we also got a lot of enemies. We were getting death threats. The mayor of Duluth threatened us, tried to shut us down. The police chief of Duluth tried to shut us down. And man, our station manager had some balls, because he straight up told them, like, it's their First Amendment right. A lot of this stuff, if it's really offensive, it goes on late at night. You can't touch these guys. And when we were getting death threats, like a station manager asked us, like, they're playing us like their voicemails, and they're like, do you guys want to keep going? And we're like, when you're talking like 19, 20-year-old punk rock kids, we're like, hell yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. So, we did what we could with this show. And then I sent a copy to Trauma in New York. And, they get copies of shows and independent films from people all the time. So I was like, well, how are we going to stand out? So Jeremy Davey, one of our co-creators, had the idea of, making an impact with the packaging. So I got a huge computer box, put a copy of My Three Scums in there with a letter to Lloyd Kaufman, president of Trauma. And the rest of the box we filled up with helium balloons that said, I love My Three Scums and all this stuff, and packed it in there. So with the flyers of the show. And so they open it and boom, all these balloons fly everywhere, and it's eye-catching, even if you hate this thing, you're going to remember this guy, And sure enough, a month later, I get a letter from Lloyd Kaufman saying, you're a really talented filmmaker, and if you're ever in Hell's Kitchen, New York, we'd love to meet with you. And it was just like, at that time in Duluth too, there was very little support for weird independent arts. And, we weren't the kind of people that wanted to just like hang out at the bars. So it was like, holy crap, this is like a letter from the gods, And basically I went out to New York immediately, met with him. He dropped everything and invited me to come out and intern on Toxic Avenger Part 4, Citizen Toxie, which was coming up that summer. It was an incredible opportunity. Went back. I was filing medical record charts at that time in Duluth at the Duluth Clinic, and being a maintenance man at night. We would just work our asses off all week long so we could shoot our crazy little short films on the weekend. So it was an opportunity. So quit everything and moved to New York, and Trauma gave me my start to basically intern. And then I got an opportunity from that to intern with the special effects, makeup and creature effects studio in Brooklyn that was working on the film. And that kind of took it from there.
Nice. I remember when My Three Scums was on, I never got to see it because I was living in Cloquet, but there were people in Duluth that would tell me about it all the time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We were just trying to like amuse ourselves. And then it was like, but it was something I never understood, and I don't even know how much it happens today with public access. But nobody was taking advantage of the opportunity to create stories. Like it was either crazy religious programming, it was talking heads talking about politics, whatever, or just like plugging local businesses. But nobody was using it as a storytelling platform.
Yeah, absolutely. In Cloquet, it was. Religious or just people talking about sports or politics, and nobody that I ever knew of ever did like a show or told a story or anything different whatsoever. Can you tell everybody just kind of exactly what everything that your studio does?
We do every aspect of special makeup, creature effects. So like once I finished Citizen Toxie, Tim Constine, who became my mentor, he basically gave me a full-time assisting position. So I got to work on Broadway shows, a little bit of Saturday Night Live, Larry Fessendon's Wendigo, some indie stuff. And then that eventually brought me out to LA, where we worked on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Hellboy 2, Where the Wild Things Are, The Shield. I mean, all kinds of projects. And then basically, you know, it was kind of like when you work for a bigger studio, you don't get the opportunity to do to really stretch all of your artistic abilities. So that was one of the reasons for me opening my own studio, because like eventually we realized that like, okay, well, we're kind of doing a lot of the work and the boss always gets all the money. And it was kind of like, well, why aren't we doing this for ourselves, you know? So yeah, we do everything from, you know, bodies to prosthetics to exploding heads to puppets, fake animals. I mean, you name it, specialty costume stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's like yesterday was a dream come true. I can't talk about it yet, but I got to bring an iconic horror character. I got to recreate an iconic horror character for a pretty big TV show, and it'll air in April. But that was all a prosthetic thing with some wardrobe stuff. But yeah, it's always something different, and that's why I love it. I just had a director leave just a little bit ago where I was making a female mutated woman that had boils all over her face because she grew up in a toxic waste dump. So she's got all in clumps of her hair coming out, and it's yeah, and that's just like a mask, you know. But it's always something different, and that's what makes it scary, because you don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. But it also, like, the adventure never stops, you know.
That's awesome. And so you also wrote and directed your own movie called Strange Nature. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure, yeah. Many years ago, I knew that I wanted to try to get my first feature off the ground. And it was like, I wanted it to be based on something real, and it had to incorporate makeup and creature effects, because that's the one thing I can bring to the table. So I'm not just another dude with a script and nothing else. So I started thinking about this story that haunted me from high school in Duluth, where it was on the front page of the News Tribune about these deformed frogs being found in local wetlands. And then like a hiking group of kids found them first, and then it spread across the whole state, where all these wetlands, I mean, you're talking frogs that were missing limbs, extra misplaced eyes, extra limbs, all these things. And I was like, oh, what's going on with that story? And then I'm blown away to find out it's still happening, but it's spread across the nation into all areas that are classically clean states, like places like Vermont, Northern California, Oregon. Oregon and Northern California are some of the biggest hotspots now to yearly find severely malformed frogs. So I was like, this is still happening. So I got to make a movie about this before somebody else does. So I basically took that storyline, where it starts in reality, and examined how a small town like Duluth might deal with it when nobody knows what's going on. There's no help from the government. When these type of natural mutations, or unnatural mutations rather, go beyond the ponds into more dangerous animals in the wilderness of the Midwest, on up to human fetuses and beyond. And how would a small town deal with that when you just have rumors to go off of, basically? And kind of all seen through the eyes of like a single mother that the town hates and her young son, that kind of live in the ground zero of this. So yeah, we spent years making the creature effects and makeup effects while I was trying to raise funds. And all, you know, you'd have all these false starts, and then eventually a couple years ago, or a few years ago, we got enough finances to bring it back. And that's the thing, I stuck to my guns, because I had producers that wanted to go to Bulgaria or Louisiana, and it was like, it's a Minnesota story. Like, it's just, I hate it when I see a movie where it's like, oh, this is supposed to be Plainfield, Wisconsin, and it's obviously upstate California, you know? Like, it's like, I don't want to cheat like that, you know? So yeah, we put in the time, and we shot the film in Duluth. Grand Rapids, areas of the Iron Range. And the cool thing about it is, in the initial stages of just planning the creature effects, it was like, well, how in the hell are we going to create these tiny little deformed frogs to have them move right and everything? Like, no matter what, that's super complicated to try to do that as a puppet, you know? Where are you going to hide the servos, all those things? So I was like, well, wait a minute, it's a real thing. Maybe we can get the real thing. So I started reaching out to the scientific community, and lo and behold, they're super supportive. In fact, they're like, finally, somebody's making a movie about this, because they feel screwed over by the government, by the news media for brushing this all under the carpet. So the leading US ecologist that's currently studying these cases comes on board to be our consultant. And through him, we're able to attain the live specimens. So all the deformed frogs you see in Strange Nature, they're 100% real.
Damn.
So we could literally start with the real thing, and then we take it to crazy places.
Wow, that's crazy. And that's streaming a couple places right now, is that correct?
Yeah, that's on Amazon Prime. It's on Tubi. I think it's on iTunes still. But we had a Walmart release. It was on Redbox, all of that. So
nice.
And then we premiered at the Twin Cities Film Festival. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, you also had told me earlier that you did all the makeup and creature effects for an adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's The Deep Ones, which is a film that's coming out pretty soon.
Yep, it's doing really good on the festival circuit right now, and it's going through the distribution channels right now, but it turned out really cool. It's a very freaky Lovecraft film that we got to create some creatures for and some weird kills, and yeah, no, it's cool.
Nice. Do you know when that's supposed to, is there an official release date for that and when everyone will see it?
There's not an official release date yet, but I'll definitely be posting it. As soon as that becomes available, we'll post it on our Instagram and our Facebook and all that. Nice.
And you also did an episode of Josh Gates's Tonight, which is his newest talk show on the Discovery Channel. You said that's coming out soon too?
Yeah, we did a bunch of stuff for him. We did him as an alien. We did a Charlie Brown episode. We did a Frankenstein. And then, yeah, we're working with him on something coming out soon too. That's like, the fans are going to really, really dig it. Yeah.
Excellent. Let's see what else we got here. You also, I saw on your website, did some of the newer Slipknot masks too. You want to talk about how that came about? And
yeah. The whole album cycle for We Are Not Your Kind, their newest album, we were working with Slipknot already on like a photo shoot, and I ended up getting along really good with Sean, who's Clown, and he was like, "Hey, would you be interested in doing our masks?" And it was just like, holy crap, yeah. So we got all the guys in. We did everybody except Sid and Corey. Those were done by other artists, and we did everybody else. So we got all the guys in, life cast them, and yeah, did custom masks for every one of them. Each individual artist, some of them had specific ideas, some had designs, and we'd go back and forth, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, they were like such cool guys, true artists, super chill, easy to get along with. We were there with them on the Jimmy Kimmel show when they did the live unveiling for the first time to the whole world. We did the music video, the first music video off the album cycle. And yeah. And we have some surprises with them that haven't even been seen yet. So yeah, we hope to have a continuing relationship with them because yeah, they're very cool guys.
Nice. That's awesome. And I saw on your website too, you'd also did some work on the new Glenn Danzig movie, Death Rider. Is there anything that you can tell us about that? I know that the trailer just kind of came out the other day, and I don't know if you're allowed to really talk about much of it, or if you have any stories or anything.
Yeah, we're pretty tight-lipped on that right now, but it is going to be awesome. I mean, Glenn brought me in for an effect on Veronica too, and I go quite a ways back with Danzig, where one of my first gigs in LA, I produced his music video for Wicked Pussycat off of Danzig 7.
Oh,
so
holy shit.
I've kind of known him off and on over the years, and then we had him on as a guest. I was a co-producer and a co-host on this awesome show called The Core on Shudder, and it's like, I mean, it's like the most amazing horror talk show. It's like the show that I wish was around when I was growing up. And Mickey Keene, he's a great filmmaker. He was the main host, and we got all these different guests on, and we got Glenn Danzig on one episode. So we actually do some cool kills with him, and then we compare notes on blood and stuff, and I take you behind the scenes and show you how to do certain effects, and really cool show. But we got reacquainted on The Core, and then that's when Glenn brought me in to do some stuff on Veronica, and then Death Rider. Death Rider was tough because like I came on, I think less than 2 weeks before the film even started, so we just like hit the ground running. We did a massive amount of stuff. There's some crazy kills in it, and some really cool. I mean, it's bizarre. It's a spaghetti western vampire movie, and Danzig plays like one of the vampire cowboys too, which is pretty wild. Like you never thought you would see something like that. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet, so I can't say anything specific about the end result. But yeah, I think it's going to be a trip. So definitely keep an eye out.
Nice. Yeah, I'm personally really excited for that one. I've always been a big Danzig fan, so that's super cool. So when I was looking through IMDb, as a person does when they're researching, I saw you also did some effects on both Thor and maybe some makeup on X-Men Last Stand. I was just kind of curious if you have any stories or anything from those.
Yeah, those I was mainly working for other studios, where I was in the shop building like some of the suit stuff, armor, things like that, molding that stuff, running it, prepping those pieces. So yeah, I wasn't even on set for those films. Like there's so much behind the scenes of just pre-production, creating that stuff. So yeah, that was mostly all like lab stuff. But it was cool, like on X-Men 3, like there was several different versions of like Beast, even of just like what he would look like. And it was like, oh, maybe tweak that. But like, it was cool to see all like what it could be, you know? Like you had the final result on Kelsey Grammer, but there was many different variations of like, oh, make them more mean looking or a little friendlier, or to find the middle ground where the director's happy and all of that. But yeah, see, for me, like just as an artist, like that was one of the big appeals to starting my own studio, is that one of the downsides to working at a shop is that usually it's easiest to run a shop, especially if it's a bigger shop where everybody has one function. And you sit in the corner and you do that one thing, whether you're making molds or you're painting or sculpting or whatever, and you do that one thing. And a lot of times you'll work on something maybe for months and you'll never go to set, you know? Like I worked on Where the Wild Things Are at Jim Henson's for 6 months, building all those giant creatures with this amazing team. And then like 2 people go off to Australia. And it was like, oh, like you're not getting that magic of being on set, seeing it come to life. That's what was really cool about the Buffy and Angel days, was I would a lot of times go to set with all the monsters and suit up the creature suits and really be a part of the action. So one of the ways I run my studio is everybody in the shop that, if we can, everybody that builds everything, we all go to set too, like a family, you know? We're a part of every stage. And sometimes people in the shop will have their specialties, but we'll all jump around and do multiple things. So it never starts to feel like a grind. Like you're just like, you never want to feel like it's factory work, you know, like, oh, I'm just doing the same thing month after month. Like it's, you know, you got into this to be creative and to be an artist. And if you're a film lover, you want to be on set and see that come to life. Like, oh, like I spent 2 months making these tentacles. Now I get to go on set and have them jump out of a lady's skirt and attack somebody, you know? I mean, you want that magic in your life, you know?
Definitely. So I guess kind of going back to Buffy a little bit, since you brought that up, what were some of the creatures or monsters on that show that you did work on that people might recognize?
Well, I was on the last episodes of Buffy with all the Uber vamps and everything, and we had tons and tons of makeups and pullover masks for because I don't know how many they had, at least 40, 50 maybe. That was a big one, and there was this creature that we made for Buffy too it was like this big brain inside of a cage that had all these different eyes moving around, and that, I mean, it was something every week. We did a werewolf, this awesome werewolf on these like stilt like leg extensions for Angel. We did this Dinza character that was kind of like this angel of death with these wings. I mean, it was literally making a monster a week. I mean, it was back to back to back. And then we got Firefly. And then we were doing Firefly at the same time. We're doing all those shows with Joss Whedon. Plus movies are coming in. And yeah, it was an amazing time where you almost like started to lose track of it. You know, it was just, I know the designers on that were just almost like trying to figure out, like, you would have to constantly stay fresh. And this is at a time where like Lord of the Rings was big. So sometimes the producers would just be like, they would come up with something really original and bizarre. And we would see that in the design room and be like, whoa, like that's amazing. I've never seen anything like that. But the producers might be like, that's too weird. Make it look like an orc. And I was just like, oh, man, okay, just make another orc, you know? So that's part of the struggle, is trying to, like, you can think outside the box all you want, but then to get producers and the money people to think outside the box, that's like where it gets tricky sometimes.
So do you find are there a lot of projects that you get where they give you a lot of freedom now, or is it a lot of times they bring you on and it's like, this is exactly what we want, don't fuck up my idea?
It's I would say probably about maybe a quarter to a third of the time they'll come in with designs already done, very specific ideas, and that's great. Like, that gives us a point of like, okay, now we can just run and go with it, and we're gonna make it look like that. That's it, you know. And but I would say half to a majority of the time they come in with kind of a vague idea, and we'll do designs in-house and show them examples, do similar things, Photoshop mock-ups, things like that. We might sculpt them maquette, do a test sculpture first, to kind of get them in the zone. But yeah, and like, if we have the time, I prefer that, because then you feel like you're more part of the creative process, where we kind of discover what it is together, you know? And then that way too, we can tell you what's possible on your time and your budget, you know? Like, oh, and like a real person's legs won't work that way. And you don't have money for digital removal afterwards. So let's nix that, you know? And we don't have to like have you come in with a dream vision and then I have to break your heart telling you that's not physically possible. You know what I mean?
Definitely. So looking back at just everything you've done, do you have one or two absolute favorite things that you've worked on when they've, you know, come on the screen where you're just like, holy shit, this is...
Yeah. I mean, I think for my for working on like big studio pictures, like Hellboy 2 was amazing. That was an amazing experience where I got to create, I was mainly working on the Abe Sapien suit for that. So that was really cool. And then Where the Wild Things Are was just the best, by far the best, like big studio experience, because Jim Henson's kept it like how when Jim Henson was alive, where they encourage you to be creative. Even like after hours, you could stay there and work on your own art projects, and even use some of their materials sometimes. And because and apparently Jim Henson felt like that made you a better artist for them too. So encouraged you to do your own thing. Because a lot of studios, they won't be encouraging you to do other things. Like there's some that like are very, very hesitant. Like you almost like have to hide if you're going to do something on the side, because they're afraid of you not being focused for their work then. And it's a horrible way to work. Like when people work for me, I encourage them to get their own jobs too. I'll help you bid it. even if you need to even use some of my studio to help you with your job, like I'll work with you, because like I get it. When you're working a 9 to 5 for somebody, you can barely keep your head above water. Like the way you get ahead is getting your own gigs. So like I know what that's like. So I totally encourage that. And that's how it was at Henson's, and then also just fun. Like we're working on these awesome. Oh, their heads are this big, and it's just like the book when I was a kid. And we'll have a water balloon fight in the middle of the workday out in the parking lot, you know, or have a margarita party, you know, whatever, and then run back to it. And it was like, oh, the work's killer. It's still getting done, but everybody's happy. Like sometimes, you know, a business can run like that, you know, very effectively. And then on an indie level, Dead Girl. Have you seen Dead Girl?
I have not.
Okay, it's amazing, and that was the first movie that really did it for me, where it showed me I could do this on my own. Because I did that whole film out of my one-car garage before I had a shop or anything, and it, like the writer, my writer friend Trent Haga wrote it, and it's a super disturbing movie. Like, if you don't try to watch it on a date night, or you're probably going to get dumped. It's very intense. It was super controversial, and it's very messed up subject matter. But I knew that it was written well, and the directors, I had many meetings with them, and I knew it would be done tastefully. Because if it was going to be just trash, there wasn't a lot of money, there wasn't a lot of time. I'm not going to do it if I think it's going to be garbage, you know. But I knew, like, okay, these guys are taking this really controversial subject matter, and they're going to do something interesting and artistic with it. And sure enough, it becomes a big hit. We all went to Toronto for the Toronto Film Festival premiere of it. It like blew away the audience. It got great distribution from Dark Sky Films and MPI, and it put my name, at least in like a small way, on the map. Like my first time being mentioned in Fangoria was for Dead Girl. And then I became known as Jim Dead Girl Ojala. So I started getting all these other gigs, because the effects, while there's not a ton of effects in Dead Girl, the ones that there are really effective. Like they did it smart. Some filmmakers will try to just shoehorn tons of effects in their film, and they don't have the budget for it or the time to execute them correctly, and it's a bunch of half-ass effects. Where they did it right, where it's like, okay, we, instead of doing a bunch of stuff, let's cherry pick like maybe 3, 4, 5 moments that'll be really effective, and concentrate on those, you know, and that's the way to do it. So then those moments really stand out, you know.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check that out soon. So have you ever turned down work if you thought that a movie was just going to be garbage? I mean, is there ever?
Yeah. No, there was one a few years ago where I was like, oh, am I getting old? I was like, I'm actually turning this job down just as a moral decision. It was like, they had money, everything, but it was just like, I was like, okay, I'm getting to the end of the script. I was like, there's got to be some kind of payoff that's somewhat redeemable. And I was like, oh, there's not. It's just nothing but brutality to women. It's just carving women up left and right, slitting their throats, and then the killer, like ripping her throat open, and then like having sex with her throat wound. And it was just hardcore, where it's just like, I get it. I get there's people that are into that, but it's just like, if I do this movie, I'm going to have to bury it. I can't have my name on that shit. So it's just like, what am I doing that for? And it's not something that I want to see. So it's kind of like, there's been a few moments through my career where I was just like, nah, you should call somebody else, you know?
So a lot of times, do you get like a full script for jobs, or do you sometimes only get to see scenes that you're working on?
Usually I'll get the full script. Unless it's like something crazy secretive, you might just get your pages. But for the most part, it's a full script. Or if it's a really fast turnaround, like boom, we need this one effect or 2 effects for a shoot next week. I'll be like, you know, I don't have time to read your script. Like, just tell me what pages the effects are on. I don't, you know, and I'm just going to go to those effects, and I'll do a breakdown really quick. Otherwise, because if I'm busy, like it might take me 2 weeks to read a script. You know what I mean? So it's like reading a script is, people don't understand. Like when you ask somebody to read your script, that's a big deal because I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years and I'll tell you at least half of the scripts you read are garbage. And all of a sudden it's just, that takes a lot of time out of your life. So you don't want to waste that time if it's something that's not going anywhere. Or I've had this happen before where it bites me in the ass, where I spend all this time on the script and then doing a whole like detailed breakdown. And then I realize like, oh shit, you don't have half the money of what you need. Like this is a waste of everybody's time. So now I at least try to gauge where their budget level is at. So like, I know if we're just going to be wasting each other's time, you know?
Yeah. So have you ever worked on stuff that never got completed and saw the light of day then?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a feature I did in New York. It was when I was very starting out, so the effects were probably pretty rough. So I'm kind of glad that one never came out. But yeah, there's been a few along the way that just got buried or never finished, or they didn't raise enough money for their post-production. And but for the most part, everything has gotten finished because like once you invest so much, like I can't imagine. Like our post-production, we had some VFX and some reshoots we had to do on Strange Nature. And so our post took a long time, but it was one of those where we're going to finish it though. And we had to raise more money and everything. Cause it's like, I can't imagine going all that way and then not finishing it, you know, but there's a ton, especially if you shoot a drama with no-name actors. I'll tell you right now, nobody wants to see that. And that movie will sit under your bed and collect dust. It's a fatal move. Like nobody's going to distribute it. Nobody wants it. You're going to end up putting that out on your own on iTunes or whatever. But it's just, and I've seen a lot of those movies just never get finished because it's like they might be great, might be a great script, but it's just, there's so much flooding the market right now. You have to have something different or really slaps you across the face because there's tons of great stuff that even just doesn't get noticed. There's not the room for it, you know?
Definitely. So what kind of advice would you have to anybody that's just starting out working on makeup or effects, that's trying to get to where you are right now?
I would say, like, you know, I've seen, like, I didn't go to school for this. I started as an intern, so I'm partial to that because I had down times where, you know, no work and I'm working at a temp agency, stuffing envelopes or telemarketing, and I want to jump out a window. But I'll, in some cases, be sitting next to a guy that owes $50,000 on a school loan. So it's like, okay, well, at least I don't have that problem, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, if you can't easily afford school, then I would definitely suggest the intern route. Because if you work your ass off and learn quickly, you can easily turn that experience into a career, you know, but you can't be lazy. Like I see so many young people now that come in and kind of just want to jump right into it. And it's like, no, like it's going to be like when I started, like you're going to be sweeping floors, you're going to be building shelves, you're going to be cleaning out molds for like a long time before somebody trusts you to do a paint job, to do a design, to do a sculpture. And you should be doing that stuff on your own. That's another thing I advise people to do is build up, like there's some people that want to intern for me right now that are in other areas of the country. And I tell them like, okay, well, until you can make that move, do these things. Get Tom Savini's books, get the Dick Smith book, get these tools to start wrapping your head around just like how to do a sculpture and how to do a simple mold of like, just sculpt some zits and mold those zits. Like just something as simple as that will start to get you to and then the next thing, sculpt like a nose prosthetic and just do as much as you can on your own until the point where you can be honest with yourself that this sucks and this doesn't. And I'll show this thing that doesn't suck and send it to somebody like me or another studio, and then they may give you a chance to come in. And because I mean, I've seen some people right out of makeup school where they're like, whoa, I can tell you're already a great sculptor, just naturally. Some people have to learn, and some people have that natural gift. And those people, if you have the natural gift, if you can find out on your own that way, and get your own photos and video to showcase that, you could get a starting position right away in a shop in some cases, you know? So do as much on your own as you can without paying for it, you know? And there's no reason not to. There's so many tutorials and stuff on YouTube now. Like, you can just learn little things that way now.
Well, I suppose when you were first starting, you know, there was no YouTube. So
when we were doing My Three Scums, we're like, here, I'm down on Park Point with my limbs sticking out of the sand. Like, how do we make it look like severed limbs? Oh, let's get all this can of dog food and then sprinkle raspberry syrup on it. And I was like, okay, I guess that looks like we didn't have a lot of that stuff. We had some old Tom Savini tapes. We had old, things of Fangoria. You knew about Ultra Slime and latex and cotton, but otherwise you didn't have a lot of resources back then, you know?
Trial and error, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when you were first starting out, like, who were your biggest, influences with all this? And then who are your influences now that you've been in the industry?
I mean, I think when I was kind of growing up, as far as like, you're talking about makeup effects and everything?
Yeah, or I mean, even just in general that got you, into anything that got you there. Right,
yeah. I mean, we all looked up to Savini back then because he was just like the king of splatter, and his, we had the video, and he was always in Fangoria, and like that was really cool because, and you could see in his book, like, oh, he would show you how the gags were done. How did you get that arrow to come out of, Kevin Bacon's neck in Friday the 13th? But if you get his book, like, there's a diagram. Oh, he's got a fake body and he's underneath that at the right angle. And then all of a sudden it totally makes sense, So the magic trickery of Savini was very inspiring. And then, you knew about Rick Baker, but you didn't really know how he did a lot of that stuff, So, and you knew about Dick Smith, but otherwise there wasn't a whole lot. You knew about Steve Johnson, but it was really just stuff from Fangoria. So I was much more inspired probably earlier by filmmakers. Lloyd Kaufman was a big inspiration, and then get to work for him on my first movie was huge. And Martin Scorsese, I was a huge fan of, and just especially like Taxi Driver, like seeing Dick Smith's work in that, and how sparing like the kills are, but when you see them at the end, holy shit, it stands out. When you see the guys like fingers blow off, and how he got like the bullets right in the face, and how'd you do that? And you find out like how low tech some of that stuff was. Like, oh, he had a bladder with a tube and with blood, and then he just had like a little prosthetic over it with a plug, and the plug is attached to fishing wire, and he just pulls the fishing wire out, and then blood comes out. And that's how those old school squibs were done. That's it. And it sounds like crazy that it could be that low tech, but it's so effective. But the key is just details, like, oh, the fishing line can't cross camera. The fishing line has to come at camera so you don't see it. And then the effect works, So it's just those little details, But yeah, those guys, Joe Dante, I was a big fan of. Gremlins was huge for me as a kid. Really got me into like monsters and puppets, and I just knew I wanted to live in that world, Things like E.T. And then getting older, getting into, Texas Chainsaw Massacre it was one of the things that made me really realize the different directions you could go with film, where it was like, wow, this doesn't feel like a movie. This feels like you've just watched a bunch of crazy people. Like, there's no way any of these people are actors, and it just, like, that still sticks with me as probably like the strongest like horror experience, And
with that one, they didn't really show a lot of blood and gore, or really even show the kills. They really alluded to them, and you just kind of thought that you saw a lot of them. So it was so different.
Yeah, it was a perfect way to cheat the kill, but still make you feel like you experienced it, you know, I mean, just getting like the reactions of the actors just right when he hangs her on the meat hook, and that kind of silent scream as she tries to reach for it. It's just like you totally feel what that's like, and you don't see a single thing of it. You know, it's incredible. You know, and just the reactions of the actors when Jim Sidow's in the truck and he's poking her, he's telling her to calm down, and he seems like a nice old grandpa, and then he starts poking her with the broom and like giggling with that low underlight from like the gas gauge or whatever on his face. It's like there's such a genuine meanness in it that it sends chills up your spine. It's like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just so brilliant on so many levels.
Awesome. This has been like super fun getting a glimpse into your world and all the stuff that you do. I guess before we wrap it up, do you have any other upcoming things that you want to mention, or just anything else in general you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's we just got the word too that this movie Off Season that we did got into South by Southwest. So that's going to be playing this year, and it's a super creepy film. Mickey Keating was the director, who was the host on the core. It's from Defiant Studios that we've worked with a couple times, but we got to do some really cool effects. Like there's one in particular, like I can't wait to show everybody. It's like people on set were getting nightmares from this one effect that we did on this character in the film. So I can't wait for you to see Off Season. Keep that in mind. It's showing at South by Southwest later this year, and then we'll see where what the street date is from there. And then also we have a film coming out called The Iron Sheik Massacre. So if there's anybody that's a wrestling fan in this world, this was another one of those like dream come true movies that I can't tell you a whole lot about. It was a collaboration with John Hennigan, John Morrison, who's a WWE wrestler, and a friend of mine who was in Strange Nature. It's called The Iron Sheik Massacre. It's everything and more what you think it is. And yes, the real Iron Sheik is involved in it. And it's just like, I saw just a rough cut of it, and I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's just like, I can't wait to unveil it. So those are some of the biggies that we're looking forward to.
That Iron Sheik thing sounds pretty bonkers, man. He's
it's wild. Yeah,
he's quite the character, so I can only imagine. That sounds pretty exciting.
Definitely.
Nice. Well, yeah, once again, this has been like super fun getting a little glimpse into your world and the work that you do. So thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day to chat with us, and it's much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. And I love the Facebook group. Yeah, you have a great community there.
Space, no one can hear you scream. revolutionary force of a government. Profits against all profit. Man, dead forever. Man, dead forever. Man, dead forever. Man, dead. Get ready for your close-up. Smile pretty kiss, the whole world shows up. Get ready for your close-up. Smile pretty kiss, death shows up. Get ready for your close-up.